morning, everybody. Welcome to our March Micro-Minimizing Challenge for day 28. We're almost finished on Friday. We've just got a few more days. I hope you've enjoyed following along so far. Today, we're going to be talking about cookbooks. I know we talked about books several days ago, back near the beginning of the challenge. But today I'm taking a very narrow look at just the cookbooks that we have. I don't know about you, but my cookbooks have sure changed over the years. Back from when I was young and learning how to cook, I was very sold on the company's coming series of cookbooks because the recipes were quite simple to put together and easy. And about 15 years ago, I made a major shift into healthier cooking and healthier foods, and so I shifted my cookbooks more towards those kinds of diets, or the mix of the raw vegan versus vegetarian versus, and we're not vegan or vegetarian, but I find that those recipe books have fantastic recipes for making vegetables just taste amazing. And so I'll pair those recipes up with something else, a different kind of protein on our plate. And I do try to have some meals every week which are meatless and really focused on vegetables. So but I've noticed that my cookbooks have really shifted over to those kinds of eating, right? And so I imagine that over the years, that's for other people as well, that over time your cooking would change and your cookbook taste would change. So the first thing we're going to do is bring all of our cookbooks out into the open where you can see them, whether that's on your kitchen counter or your living room floor, your dining room table, wherever you have space to work where you can see them all. And we're going to do a bit of an assessment. So when you look at your cookbooks, do you see your current eating habits? Do you see eating habits of the past? Do you see hopeful eating routines for the future that you perhaps bought with good intentions? Do you use your cookbooks at all? Do you ever open them? Do you ever look at them? Do you have need for any of them? Or maybe you have just one favorite cookbook that you use all the time, and that's your favorite go-to. So as you go through and answer those questions, and of course those fall into the do you love this cookbook? Does this cookbook serve a purpose? But all cookbooks serve a purpose, which is why we take a bit more focused questions on the cookbooks, and in the way of do you actually use them, right? So you're going to need a keep and a donate pile today. And you're going to remove all the cookbooks that you never use, never look at, bought with best intentions to use for the future, but never did. Sorry. And you're going to minimize your collection down to just the cookbooks that you currently use that suit your current lifestyle. Okay? Now, technically, for today's challenge, that is basically the challenge, is to reduce your cookbooks down to just what you're actually using, what you need, and what serves you in your lifestyle today. So if that's what you're looking for, you can actually stop watching right now. However, I am going to talk about a cookbook project that I took on several months ago now, and it has paid off in huge amounts of time saving, really making full use of my cookbooks. So I'm just going to talk about that project that I did, just in case somebody else is interested in doing something similar. So what I would do when I got a new cookbook, I would be so excited. I'd come home, sit down, and flip all through it, and I would take sticky notes. I'm actually going to show you here. And I would take sticky notes and stick them onto all the recipes that I thought that I would make, right? And then I would go do my menu planning, and I would take a couple of those recipes and add them in. And then the cookbook would go on the shelf. And, it's always the best intentions to go back. But when you put this many sticky notes into a cookbook, you're not going to remember what all those recipes are. They're not organized in any kind of way for your own menu planning. And so I found that my cookbooks would often kind of just sit there. I'd have to remember, oh yeah, I made this recipe, it was in this cookbook, and I'd pull out that one. But you don't remember them all. It's not really possible. So I took on a rather bigger project, and it was time consuming in the beginning. And so I will tell you, this takes a bit of a time commitment to do, but it has paid off so well in the end. What I did is I took a scribbler, or you could take a binder if you prefer, and I got sticky tabs, sticky dividers, and divided the pages, and I gave myself several themes, and I can show you that as well. In the scribbler, I added all kinds of sticky dividers, and I themed them. So I have foodibles, Mexican, Korean, Indian, soups and sandwich and salads, meal salads, pasta, what else have I got here? Slow cooker, stir fry, and I even have somewhere in here, I know I have junk food night. And so I would say that you can pick whatever themes would suit you and your family. And then what I did is I sat down with each cookbook. Now I didn't do this all in one day. Like I said, this was kind of a time-consuming project. I sat down with a cookbook, once or twice a week. And really, that part of it doesn't take that long once you get into it. It just depends how many cookbooks you have. But I have quite a few, so it took me a while. But I would sit down and I would actually flip through the cookbook page by page. And I would look at and assess each recipe and look for my criteria. Now my criteria was, is this something I would make? Period. Right? Would I even make this? Is this something everyone in my household would eat? Are the ingredients basic and accessible? And is it fairly simple and quick? Right? Because if you're going to make a bigger meal, entertaining meal, you're going to spend the time to go through your cookbooks to look for something a little bit more extravagant, if that's what you're into. But the purpose of this was for quick and easy menu planning, grocery shopping, grocery list, right? I wanted that to be quick, but I also wanted to not forget about, all these great recipes here that I had tabbed off, but I didn't even know where they were. So I would sit down with the recipe book and go through page by page and kind of assess it with those criteria questions. And then if it was something that I would make, everybody would eat, it fit all the criteria, I would write down under the theme in my scribbler the name of the recipe, the cookbook. And the cookbook I came up with just abbreviated kind of letters so I would know which cookbook it was. And I wrote down the page number. So I would write, say here, it says roasted carrot soup, and that's in, I just wrote the word yum, but I know that's in my Yum and Yummer cookbook, and the number 94, which is the page number, right? And even for this recipe book that I have here, I paired that with chickpea salad in wraps from Oh She Glows, which is right this one, and that recipe is on page 105. So I planned full meals as well into my scribbler, right? So I would go through, and that way this cookbook got organized how I wanted it organized, right? Into my themes. So when I go to make my grocery list, I just say, oh, what am I in the mood for? Let's have a stir fry. I can just go to my stir fry tab, and I've got several stir fries written down there, and I know that I've already assessed it for, I will make this, everyone in my household will eat this, the ingredients are going to be basic, and it's going to be quick to make. So I don't have to worry about all that. I've already done all the pre-thinking. Okay? So for me, it was so worth taking the time to go through, and I make much better use of all of my cookbooks, because otherwise you have to take the time to flip through them each time, and that gets overwhelming, it gets time consuming, and you're trying to write a grocery list. And this has just really, really simplified that for me. It took a few weeks to go through all of my cookbooks, and I just did it, as I had time, when I had time. But it really is time saving. You take the time, under soup, my theme is soup, sandwiches, and or salad. And so I would find the soup, and then I would look for a sandwich or a salad that I thought would complement that soup. So when I'm doing my menu planning, I'm not like, oh, let's have soup. Oh, what kind of sandwich should we have? What kind of salad would go with it? I've already done that pre-thinking, right? If I want to change it up at some time in the future to have a different sandwich with that soup, that's fine. But that's not a priority for me. To me, I know that those two items are going to go together. They could be from two different recipe books. It doesn't matter, because I've already noted the page number, what book they're in. It works fantastic. It really does. And then once I've planned my menu, then I just go to the recipe books and open them so I can make sure, to write down whatever ingredients I might need at the grocery store. And that's the only time that I'm opening the cookbooks until I'm actually, going to be cooking. And I keep that menu plan available for me for, I usually do my menu plan for a week at a time. So I will keep that menu plan handy, because on that menu plan is where I've written the recipe books, page numbers, and what we're going to be eating that week. So I just keep that piece of paper around. That's actually another thing I do. Just a quick side note out of convenience, is I keep paper right inside my scribbler. So that way when I go to write my menu plan and grocery list, I'm not hunting around for paper either. And we keep pens in a few different places in the house, so it's usually easily accessible. I hope you can tell that I'm really loving this system. I really love that it was worth the time to put into it. And it's been several months and I'm still using it. I've tried different systems, different ways, different things, to try to be using the recipe books, or try to make menu planning easier, try this, try that. And I can say that this system is one that has actually stuck. And I've been using it for several months now. So I know that it's a good system. I know that it's working really, really well. So just a side note, when you're going through your recipe books in this manner, there were a few recipe books that I had where I only would make maybe 1 or 2, 3 recipes out of that book. It's not worth keeping the book for that. For those recipes, I would just scan them and print them and put them into a binder that I also have that's themed. And that way I could donate the recipe book and just have the 2 or 3 recipes in there. And then of course I have my themed binder, which is where I have my own recipes that I make, recipes that I print off from online, etc. And so then in my scribbler I would just write down that it's in the green binder, right? And I know which binder that is, and it's themed. I could write down the theme if I thought I wouldn't remember what theme it is in that binder. Anyway, so this project can seem a little bit daunting at first, depending on how many cookbooks that you have. It can take some time, but like I said, it took me a few weeks to get through all of my recipe books. So it's okay. Take your time. It will get through it, but get through it, and you can start using the system even before you're through all of your recipe books, right? You only need a couple in there to get started. And you're going to find all kinds of new recipes that you're excited about to try, and it's going to add a lot of variety to your meals as well, because you've done all the pre-thinking. You don't have to think, is this something I'm going to make? Is, my picky eater going to eat this? You've already thought that through, right? If, of course, you have any questions about that, if that interests you, if there's something that, you have a question, or, everybody's different, so maybe you want to brainstorm a little bit on how this could work for your family. It's a little bit different than mine. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you at any time. You can DM me on Instagram or Facebook. You can go to my website and you can contact me there via email, and I'm more than happy to chat with you, email with you, or set up a time to talk. That would be great. I'd love to get to know you. Okay, anyway, thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.